Hi everybody. Let's talk about how to do this observation assignment. So, for the observation assignment, you are going to complete a 1-hour observation session in some kind of a classroom. So it could be a child care center, it could be a school. It doesn't matter if it's a child care center or a school. If you're not sure where you should go to do it, you can check out our child development centers on campus. So if you're at the Fort Steilacoom campus, you can check out the Milgard Child Development Center there. And if you call them or email them and say, hi, I'd like to do a 1-hour observation, they'd be happy to allow you to come in for that. And if you're at the Puyallup campus, you want to contact the Garnero Child Development Center, and they would be happy to take your phone call or email and set you up with an observation there. Okay, so what I have here in front of you is the observation criteria sheet. So I'll just kind of walk you through this sheet and then I'll show you how to do the assignment. So the purpose is to really create some connections between what we're learning in class and seeing it in real life with a real life child. So I want you to observe 2 different children and take notes. So before you do any of this, the first thing that you should do is watch the video that's called Observing Young Children. That's the first thing. So it's going to tell you how to take detailed notes and how to be objective during it. And then I want you to read an article that's also in the module that's called Objective Observation. And then there's a little quiz at the end of the article that's a self-test quiz to make sure that you've understood everything that there is to learn about objective observation. And so that article is very helpful in understanding how to keep your comments objective. So it really tells you how to not put your opinion into what you're seeing. So for example, maybe you might see a kid taking some blocks and smashing them together, or let's say building a block tower and then knocking it down. Now you might want to write down in your notes, little Jorge was building a block tower and then he got angry and frustrated and he smashed it. Now using those words angry and frustrated implies that you know what's going on in little Jorge's head, but you don't. So instead what you want to write is little Jorge was sitting on the ground and he was stacking blocks one on top of another, and once he finished stacking he knocked the block tower down. If you want to say something about sort of interpreting what his mood was, you can write, you can describe the facial features. So you could just describe what his face looked like. You could say that he furrowed his brow. You could say that his eyes were squinted, closed, or something, and describe what you see. So you're really trying to paint a picture of what was going on. So imagine the person who's reading it isn't there, and you really need to take a snapshot of what's going on. So that's what you're trying to do when you take those notes. Okay, so then the third thing you do is go through and do that 1-hour observation in some kind of early childhood education setting and take those notes. And after that comes the fun part. So then you're going to find connections between what you learned or what you observed in the observation and the Washington State Early Learning and Development Guidelines. So I'm going to open the Early Learning and Development Guidelines now to show you what they look like. Okay, so here are the Washington State Early Learning and Development Guidelines. So after you take a bunch of notes on the things that you observed, you're going to open up this guide. It's a PDF and it's in modules folder number 9, week 9. And you're going to try to connect the stuff that you saw with this guidelines book. So let's say you were looking at a group of preschoolers, let's say 3 to 4 years. So what I'm going to do is click on the 3 to 4 years over here in the left bar. So if you open up kind of the bookmarks navigation in your PDF reader, you should be able to do that. If you can't do that, you can just scroll through the book on your own and look to see, okay, well, where can I find 4 to 5 years? Page 69, and then get yourself to page 69 that way. I like to use the sidebar on the left. So I go to age 4 to 5 years, and boom, it takes me to that. So here I am in, oh wait, did I say I wanted 3 to 4 years? Let's say I'm doing 3 to 4 years. Okay, so let's say I'm at 3 to 4 years, and here I am at that chapter, and I'm going to scroll through, and they kind of talk about some things that families know about children, blah-de-blah, and here's what I want. So there are all these different categories. One of them is about me, my family, and culture. One of them is building relationships. So it sounds like that would be some kind of social emotional development stuff. Very good. After that, we've got touching, seeing, hearing, and moving around. To me, that sounds like some physical development. And if we look below, it says using large muscles, gross motor skills, using small muscles, fine motor skills, and using senses, sensory motor skills. Sounds good to me. So what you'll notice in all these sections is that in the orange column or in the left-hand column, it says children may. Now here is where the milestones are. So these are guidelines that have been developed by the state of Washington that indicate to us where children should be at developmentally. Where they should be at developmentally. So these are kind of benchmarks for development in all these different areas. So right now these are benchmarks for 3- and 4-year-olds in physical development. So if we go on, we see, okay, growing up healthy. So we've got some health and hygiene stuff. Communicating, literacy, so speaking and listening, language development. Now, as we remember from our language lecture, this is a cognitive development thing. Learning about my world. So here we've got some knowledge, cognition stuff. So these are some milestones about cognition. Math and science milestones. And then we're kind of to the end of that age. So why don't I give you one that's kind of easier to, well, let's see here. Here's a good one, language. So I'm going to just increase the size so you guys can see it better. Okay, so language. So let's see. Child can speak and listen. So the child at 3 and 4 should be able to communicate with body language, facial expression, tone of voice, and words. Okay, so maybe if I saw something like this in my observation, I might be able to make a connection there. I might be able to see, okay, maybe there were 2 kids playing together and one girl said to the other, hey, do you want to go play house? And one girl sort of shrugged her shoulders and threw her hands up in the air and said, I don't know what I want to play, but let's think of something. And there she showed body language. Maybe she made a facial expression of something and she used a tone of voice that sounded like she was unsure, but she'd like to figure it out. Something like that. And then she also used words. Okay. So there you've navigated your notes that you've taken to the Washington State Early Learning and Development Guidelines. So what do you want to do next? Well, I'll tell you what you want to do next. You want to open up this anecdotal record form. So this is the anecdotal record form, and this is where you're going to record those connections. So you're going to break out one of these forms and fill it out. So let's say you went to Garnero, and you'll fill out Garnero. And then you'll put the date in there, whatever the date is. I don't know what, 6, well, let's not say you did it right then. Let's say you did it on 5. Say you did it on 6/1. That's the only date I can think of right now. And then the age level or the grade, so you could say like preschool, la-da-da-da-da, the child's age. So you don't need to say the child's name. You could just put child's age in there. You could say age 4. And your name and the teacher's class that you're in. And then you've got this box here, and in the box it says domain, date, observation, and comments. So what's the domain? You want to write the developmental domain. So in purple on the right side, I wrote an example when I wrote physical. So here you'd write physical, and then you'd write the date, and then you'd write your observation. So these are where your objective notes go. So you maybe have taken them down on paper before, but now you're going to transfer them to this nice paper here. And you should probably type it because it'll make it easier for you to submit. Okay, so here's your observation notes, and here's an example. On the playground, I observed Jorge, that's like, must be one of my favorite kid names, Jorge climbing up a short ladder. Jorge climbed the ladder, alternating hands and feet until he reached the top. Once at the top, he decided to climb down. On his descent, he did not alternate hands and feet. Okay, so this is exactly what I saw. It's very objective. I didn't say he was having trouble climbing. I didn't say it looked like he got scared when he was at the top. I didn't say any of that stuff. It was very objective. And then under the comments, here's where you bring in that stuff from the Washington Early Learning Guidelines. So here I looked it up in the guidelines, I broke out the guidelines, and I found what for 4 to 5-year-olds, what Jorge was doing. So I found Jorge used both gross motor skills, fine motor skills, and coordination. This observation shows that Jorge moves with purpose from one place to another. And then I'm going to cite the Washington Early Learning and Development Guidelines because I'm basically saying word for word, verbatim, what's in there. So let me just show you that I did indeed get this from there. So we'll go to the ages 4 and 5 because that's what I said Jorge was. And we're going to find physical development stuff. Okay, that was touching, seeing, hearing, and moving around. And so here what I wrote was Children may, and he's using his gross motor skills climbing up that thing. He was moving with purpose from one place to another using the whole body. So is that what I wrote in my sheet? I hope so. He's moving with purpose from one place to another. That they said in there? Yeah, moving with purpose from one place to another. Exactly. So that's all I did. That was all I did to fill out this form, was make that connection. And so you can do physical, you can do cognitive, you can even do social development if you have read ahead in that chapter. You can pick any domain you want, but so know that here's the kid you're going to do. So let's say this is the one we're doing for Jorge. And all four of these quadrants, 1, 2, 3, 4, are all going to be about Jorge, all four of them. And then I'm going to get a second sheet and fill this out again for a different kid. So two of these things, two separate kids, two separate sheets. That's what you hand in. So 8 of these quadrants total should be filled out, 4 for each kid. Okay, let me make sure I covered everything before I say goodbye. So here on your observation assignment sheet, here's what you turn in. I want you to turn in the anecdotal records, so those forms for 2 children, and then also hand in your notes. So if you wrote handwritten notes, I want you to take a photo of it or scan it with a scanner and upload that to Canvas as well. And so here's just some examples of different areas you might want to look at: fine motor, gross motor skills, problem solving, memory, social referencing, emotion regulation. We've talked a lot about emotion regulation in class, so that might be cool. We've also talked about theory of mind a lot, so that could be kind of cool too. And so then here's some more notes that I included that you can read about, how to observe and how to be objective. And then of course, as usual, we have the outcomes and then the grading criteria, the rubric. So this is how your assignment's going to be graded. All right, guys, that is all I have for you today. Good luck on the assignment, and as always, email me if you have any questions. Bye-bye.